And our final problem is the final thing we're being assessed on is taking a real world problem, being able to pull it apart, analyze the pieces of it, and come up with um, the answer to that problem, the solution, and then interpreting what that solution means. So it says here, pastel de nata, a Portuguese dessert, uses 1 1/3 cup of sugar per batch. Madison has only 3 1/3 cup of sugar. That's all the sugar that Madison has in the house. And it says out of that much sugar, how many batches can Madison make? And they show here that the answer is 2.5. And this is a division problem because we're asking how many of these fit into what we have? How many can we make out of that? So how many of those fit into that? So we have a 3 1/3. That's our starting with. What do we have? It has nothing to do with being bigger or smaller. It has to, what is it that we have and what are we trying to fit into it? And we're trying to see how many 1 1/3s, how many times does this recipe fit into that 3 1/3 sugar that we have? So we're taking that 3 1/3 sugar and we're dividing it by 1 1/3. And using tools and skills that we showed you previously and that we developed over this unit, we know that 3 1/3 is the same as having 10 thirds. And we also know that 1 1/3 is the same as having 4 thirds. And I see that I have a common denominator already, that 3 divided by 3 is 1. And again, that's important. If you go back to previous videos, that's important because whatever we divide on top is going to be our answer because anything divided by 1 is itself. And this gives us 10/4. So 10/4 times. So that doesn't really help us. I can't see 10/4 times that's how many batches I can make. So we turn that into that improper fraction here. We turn that into that mixed number here. And again, the way we do it is say, how many times does 4 go into 10? I'm going to do a little more visual way. There's 4/4. That's once. And there's another 4/4, and that's twice. 1, 2. And then we have 2/4 left over, which is the same as saying half. Again, why is 4/4 important? Because 4 divided by 4 is worth the number 1. They're not going away. They're converting into a number 1. So I have 1, 2, and this turned into a half. 2.5 batches is what we can make. Much more meaningful than saying 10 batches. I can make 2 full batches and a half of a batch if I start with 3 1/3 cup of sugar and the recipe takes 1 1/3. Okay. Another way to show that, let me clean the board. Again, another way to do that is by taking our 10 thirds, dividing it by 4 thirds, and then doing that algorithm we talked about before. Oops, let's don't mess up the algorithm. 3/4. And we get 30/12. See how it's not always the greatest way to do it? It's one way, but not the greatest. And I say, how many times does 12 go into 30? I don't know, but I know I can reduce that by dividing it by 6. And that gives me 5/2, which is a little easier to divide. 2 goes into 5 2 full times with 1 left over, and we're looking for 2's. So hopefully this helps you. Let me know if you have any questions.